Mild, there'll be scattered thunder showers in that area as well, and down south, steamy, sweaty, hottest once again. It will be typical for this time of the year to have that sweltering weather there. Now for the weekend, Saturday, some thunderstorms could be heavy in the northeast, producing torrential downpours of rain all along the coast from the Carolinas down into Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, and right into northeastern Texas. Sunshine and beautiful weather in the Ohio Valley and out west. Could be a few scattered showers in the northwest, but overall, not a bad weekend coming up for this 4th of July. That's a look at the nation's weather forecast. Now here's a look at your local forecast.
Well, hello there, everybody. I'm meteorologist Rick Mitchell. The strong cold front which moved across Iowa yesterday with all those storms, well, that's moved off to the east. We don't have to worry about that at all. In fact, high pressure is building in from Nebraska today, giving us lots of the sunshine. Temperatures are nice and comfortable in the 70s. Your forecast for Des Moines goes like this: mostly sunny and pleasant, a high of 78, west-northwesterly winds of 10 to 15 miles per hour.
Here's hoping you have a great 4th of July weekend weather-wise. Joan?
All right, thank you, Bill. Right now, 10 minutes after it came as a surprise to just about everyone yesterday, I guess, as we heard in the news, the unemployment rate rose to 7.8% last month. Now, that is an increase of nearly a full point since last June, when unemployment stood at 6.9%. Unemployment is now the highest that it's been since March 1984. And in response to yesterday's bad news, the Federal Reserve cut the discount rate, the rate at which it loans money to banks, to 3%. That is the lowest it has been since July 1963. So whatever happened to that recovery we were all hearing about? Where is the economy headed now in the months to come? Joining us today, Dan Lacey, the editor of Workplace Trends, and also David Jones, the chief economist for Aubrey G. Lanston, a Wall Street securities firm. Nice to have you both here. David, it seems like you and I have talked about this so many times, but I do remember us talking about this earlier this year. It looked like we were on the road to recovery. Now this, what happened?
This one is different, Joan. There's no question about it. It's slower. It's a stumbling recovery. Wall Street thought we had a recovery. Main Street said, I don't feel any of the recovery. I don't feel it in the job outlook. I'm still trying to pay off debt from the 1980s if I'm a typical consumer. And now we may even start to worry a little bit about politics as we get this three-person race. So all in all, people are still worried, they're still cautious, and it simply means that the recovery is going to go up so slowly that people will barely realize it's taking place.
How slowly? I mean, when can we expect anything to happen?
We can't, and that's what Washington is almost panicking over. I think these employment numbers that you cited absolutely rang a bell, raised a red flag in Washington, both for the White House and for the Federal Reserve. It looked like even the Fed was scrambling to try to respond to these unusually weak numbers by easing interest rates. But the question is, Joan, rates come down. But if people are sick of having borrowed in the 1980s and paying off debt now, it'll even be a while before these new lower interest rates cause people to want to borrow money and spend.
And that makes me feel like they're all looking at this like a leading indicator. And yet, President Bush said yesterday, the unemployment figures don't actually reflect the economy because they are a lagging indicator. What does that mean, and do you agree?
I don't. That's an old-fashioned theory that dates back to 1955, when this was a country of factory workers. So the president's out of touch. He's going to go down in history next to Herbert Hoover, I think, on this issue. And, you know, what's going on, as David said, out there in the workplace, in the real world, is that people are hurting. Their wages are dropping. They're losing their health insurance. They're losing their pensions. None of this has anything to do with these statistics that President Bush throws out. He obviously doesn't know what's going on out there.
David is sounding a bit pessimistic this morning, but he doesn't always. But you're known for being a little bit of pessimistic, maybe more pessimistic. Realistic. It all depends on the way you look at it, right, than others. So are you afraid that these kind of unemployment rates are here to stay for a substantial amount of time?
Yes, and worse, Joan.
And worse? How? What worse?
Well, right now, if you really study it, you see that the true unemployment rate is something more like 14 to 15%. In the 30s, we were talking 25%. So we're climbing up there toward the depression levels. And when you count the hardship on top of that, on top of the unemployment, we're looking at a time that's starting to parallel the early 30s.
Go ahead.
And one other thing, it's white-collar unemployment as well as blue-collar unemployment. The management-level job has been hit hard as companies have been restructuring, pulling back, and in the defense industry, some of the most brilliant minds in this country, the engineers in the defense industry, are out of a job now. So that combination of circumstances makes it especially tough, particularly since a lot of these job cuts are permanent.
So what could we do? I mean, what can we realistically do now to try to head off the worst?
number one thing we must do, and which nobody in the political world is talking about, is we have to separate health care from employment. But believe it or not, a lot of this has to do with the out-of-control healthcare system in America is traumatizing the workplace because we have those two things linked in America. Unlike any other country, we link healthcare with employment. And as healthcare goes out of control, a lot of employers are responding to that by simply cutting headcount. In other words, you can't control the doctors, so fire your employees.
So you keep that expense down.
So number one, the emergency thing that we have to do as a country is separate those two things.
David, Dan points to health care. What would you say we have to do now?
Well, the answer is we can't do much to get the economy going fast. To keep it going up, we do have to see low interest rates, which we have, and Washington has to give us some leadership. I mean, incentives for investment so that businesses can, in fact, create new jobs have to come. We had this gridlock in Washington. Somewhere down there, somebody's going to have to show leadership and give an incentive for this economy to save and invest, become more productive in the years ahead, and to educate our workforce. If we don't do that, we're in real trouble.
Well, I said in the beginning the Fed cut the discount rate again. I think we added it up about 17 times. I think they've done this since the recession began. Is that going to help?
It won't make any difference. It's not the problem. The problem is healthcare, and as David said, we have to re-educate the workforce. There are several major steps we could take, but nobody in power is showing any leadership, as David points out.
One other thing, we can refinance mortgages and businesses can borrow at a lower rate. That gives us the base for better expansion in the future, but it will still be slow.
All right, got to jump out here. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with more in just a moment.
For just $12.98, start with an Acros 386 SX computer with a 100 meg hard drive, 2 megs memory, and 2400 baud modem. Add to that a VGA color monitor, an Epson 24-pin printer and mouse. Next, load in Microsoft Windows, PFS, Windows Works, and Prodigy. And finally, add floppy disk, the storage box, paper, and printer cable. It's a heavy offer on a computer package that really stacks up. You get everything you need, just $12.98, this week at Best Buy.
New Yoplait Parfait style yogurt. What's to like? 3 layers. Real creamy. Fun to eat. Oh, it's low fat, too. So, how do you like that? Parfait style Yoplait. Do it for you.
New Yoplait fat-free. Fruit in the bottom. Active yogurt cultures. Not 1 ounce of fat. That's why Mary Hamilton does it every day. Smooth, creamy Yoplait. Do it for you.
We do have a unique policy here at Burnett's. We want you to be very happy with what you've purchased, and we'd like to have you take it home, try it out, and see if this is what you're going to like. And if it doesn't, you bring it back, and we'll help you find something that works better for you than maybe that particular piece. We have the largest selection of artwork in Iowa. We have professional framers and a friendly staff to serve you. So after you come to Burnett's, why would you go anywhere else?
The Psychic Network, 1-900-773-LUX. Find a special love, revive an existing relationship, break through personal barriers, and reach your true potential in your career. 1-900-773-5825, and speak live to an understanding psychic. Achieve your financial goals. Uncover the secrets to good health and happiness. The Psychic Network, 1-900-773-LUX. Your guide to health, wealth, and happiness. Please be 18.
17 minutes now after the hour, and we have a conversation now with a man who earlier this year was quoted as saying that America's economic woes might have something to do with the American work ethic. The outspoken Japanese Prime Minister, Kiichi Miyazawa, is in Washington this week for his second summit with President Bush. Steve Fox paid the Prime Minister a call and began by asking him about his meeting with President Bush.
I heard the President, high respect and admiration. He's really a man of integrity, very decent man, so I just wanted to renew our friendship. And we did so in our White House and Camp David too. That's most important to me.
To renew the friendship?
Yeah, because we are responsible to the relations of the two countries, and that he and myself have real trust and friendship is the most important.
You have said one of your goals as prime minister is to turn Japan into a lifestyle superpower.
Sure, yeah.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
We've been exporting very much to the foreign countries, to yours, and be criticized to doing too much while living in rabbit hutches. That, unfortunately, is true.
The people have not gotten the benefit of the wealth.
Why shouldn't they do something on that? That I've been thinking of it over many years, and just being in my position, just put it in our 5-year program. So let's relax. Let's have it a better life. Pluralistic values.
Work fewer hours?
Work fewer hours. We are working 2,000 hours. Instead, we'd have 1,800, for instance. Let's have parks. Let's have garbage disposal. Let's have, most funny thing is let's have better commuting facilities. The train coming to Tokyo is, at this moment, 200% congested. Let's reduce it to 180. From the one where you can only read pocketbooks to the one you can read newspaper. That's one of the propositions.
Let us talk about your now infamous work ethic quote. Earlier this year, there was a big uproar when you seemed to say that Americans had lost the work ethic. But as I read the full conversation with you, and you were not talking, as I understand it, about American workers in general. Can you clarify this?
Let me set the record straight. I was really misquoted, mistranslation as well. What I did was take issue with those people who are preoccupied with easy money making. You know what? And that easy money making did lead to the bubbling of the Japanese economy busting later on. So that's what I mentioned of Japanese. Some people are preoccupied with easy money making, so some perhaps in the United States as well. That's all I said. I didn't say anything outside that, anything else.
You were not saying that American workers have lost their work ethic?
Not at all. Matter of fact, Japanese Ministry of Labor, the statistics shows American productivity is 60% higher than Japanese. So no reason why I can say that.
I have read that Japanese people tend to view Americans nowadays, not all, but many Japanese people tend to view Americans with a mix of superiority and sympathy. Is that an accurate characterization from what you know? No,
not at all. If there are some Japanese people of superiority and look down on the United States, I think that's their arrogance. They are a very, very small minority.
I have a personal question for you. Though it is no secret, I suspect most Americans don't know that your daughter is married to an American, a U.S. State Department official. And you've got grandchildren who live here in Washington. Did you get a chance to see them on this trip?
Presently they're back to Tokyo. because their parents tried to make them a bilingual. So when your school is now over, they are working in Japanese school for Japanese language.
So you come all the way to Washington, you can't see your grandchildren?
Right, exactly.
Your son-in-law is the State Department official. In these times of some tension between our two countries, I would imagine that leads to interesting dinner table discussions.
No tension between our countries, not at all. Nothing.
No?
No, of course not.
Everything is fine?
Oh, everything fine, sure.
Mike Mansfield once said that he thought the relationship between the United States and Japan was and should be our most important diplomatic relationship.
But no.
You agree with that?
You're right.
Because?
Sure.
Because what? Why?
We need each other. We're so interdependent, so indispensable to each other. Why not?
Our thanks to the Prime Minister. 23 after the hour. We'll be back. In our next half hour, we begin to celebrate the 4th of July.
Tennis is a game of position. Get out of position and you lose the point, maybe even the match. Believe me, I know. Many times we get out of position with God. He seems far away, out of reach. If you feel distanced and out of position with God, you have to ask yourself the question, who moved?
From your friends at First Assembly of God on Merle Hay Road.
I cooked a pig in the ground, we got some beer on ice, and all my rowdy friends are coming over tonight.
Hank Williams Jr., he was born to boogie.